Would you like to play a game?
Sergeant Sacker, listen to me. We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house.
The caller is in the house.
The calls are coming from the house.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Now stay on the line.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stay on the Line, the horror genre podcast where we talk about something horror genre related every week, usually on Thursdays. And this week, I wanted to do something a little bit different where I just read some short stories. It's a very short podcast. I just wanted to see how I would feel with reading these, and I'm not gonna lie, y'all. It was a little hard to read some things. A lot of big words, but you know, if I want to get into some work about reading out loud into a microphone, I need to practice. So this is my first time doing something like this, so please be a little tame and easy on me. Even editing this back, I kind of was like, oh, I could deliver lines a little bit better, and this is my first time doing this, so it's something new. I decided to do some Christmas special things since it's the holidays and some SCPs. If you don't know what SCPs are, just look it up. It's kind of just like a little spooky and anomaly things. Which, did I stutter a lot during this? Yes. Did I edit out most of that? Absolutely. But before we get into the podcast, I just wanted to thank some people. So before we get into the podcast, I just wanted to thank my highest tier patrons right off the bat, because we're not going to do a break in the middle of this, because that would kind of, I don't know, it would break the tension. So I want to thank some of our highest tier at the PP Poopoo tier. I know. We have Chris B, Ms. Titty City, Fawn X, Caitlin B, Kiki, Pobre, Sunny Days, Zingcat, Winnie, Rebecca Carlson, and yeah, we're gonna have a fun old time, so we're gonna get into it. Terrah's gonna take it away. Bye! Well, don't leave. Listen to the stories. And if you like these, please let me know. And if you didn't like them, I don't know, maybe don't tell me how bad I was. Enjoy. Item number 5703, Level 3 Confidential. Containment Class Safe. Secondary Class Skotos. Special Containment Procedures. Entrances to SCP-5703 have been filed and concealed. All blueprints and records of SCP-5703 have been doctored or destroyed. Disturbance of the architecture is prohibited, including but not limited to removal of the original pinewood flooring. The house containing SCP-5703 remains a functional civilian residence in order to maintain a perception of normalcy in the neighborhood. Residents are to remain under electronic surveillance for behavioral abnormalities. Description: SCP-5703 is a second-floor bedroom in a suburban home formerly owned by Diane and Robert Pine. Address and geographic coordinates are available on request from the HCML supervisor. Human hair grows from between the floorboards of SCP-5703. Internal imaging of the structure shows no abnormalities. Extranormal Event 5703-01. On December 24, 20 censored, Lori Hammond and her fiancé David Weathers arrived to the Pine residence just before sundown. None of the four have been seen or heard from since. SCP-5703 is believed to have initially manifested shortly after the disappearances occurred, though the causal relationship between these events remains unclear. The following are transcriptions of 4 videos recorded on Weathers' mobile phone the night he disappeared. Speculation regarding the events depicted has been withheld pending the resolution on ongoing forensic and scientific investigations. Video 1. Video 1 opens on Hammond smiling at the camera in front of the home containing SCP-5703. She carries several small gift bags in one hand and groceries from a local supermarket in the other. Hammond. Sam, we're here. We're doing this. Hammond family Christmas initiation commence, says Weathers. Hammond attempts to ring the doorbell but fumbles with her bags. Weathers rings it for her. My hero, Hammond says. Hammond blows a mock kiss to Weathers. Mr. Pine opens the door moments later wearing an oversized Santa Claus hat. Mrs. Pines hurries behind him. Oh my goodness. Oh my baby, come here. We've got a whole year's hug quota to catch up on, Mrs. Pine says. Mrs. Pine reaches in to embrace Hammond, who sidesteps into the entry hall. Sorry, one sec, hands are full, says Hammond. Let me just... Here, I'll grab those bags for you, L'Oreal, Mr. Pine says. Did somebody say hug quota? I'll give hugs, Weathers says. I'll take hugs, Mrs. Pine says. Weathers keeps the phone in his hand while the other two embrace. The camera angles up towards a section of ceiling, smeared with a dark, pulpy substance and strands of hair. Weathers does not appear to notice. Hammond off-screen. Hang on a bit. That one is... Small squeak. It was just caught on my finger. I'll just set... Yeah, Mr. Pine. Off-screen, presumably embracing Hammond. Ah, I needed my girl. Ah, okay, David. Our turn. Weathers embraces Mr. Pine. The mark on the ceiling enters the camera's field of view a second time. It appears slightly larger. That's the stuff, Mr. Pine says. We're hugging a bunch. You doing a video? We're documenting Dave's first Christmas with us for Sam, Hammond says. And prosperity. It's a big occasion. The camera pans around the entry hall. Modestly decorated for the holiday, there are no photographs on display. Yep, gotta make sure your brother and all future generations can watch me screw up that pie, Mrs. Pine. The silence of heaven, Mrs. Pine says. She's got you all coached, huh? Kind of, says Weathers. Went over the recipe, but we didn't, I didn't practice or anything. Don't worry, Mr. Pine says. If I can make it, anyone can. Who says you can make it? Hammond says. They all share a laugh. I'm so thrilled you two got to come, Mrs. Pine says. Last year wasn't the same without you. Sorry for borrowing her, ma'am, Weathers says. Oh no, it's fine. I'm just glad everyone's here this time, Mrs. Pine says. Except Sam, Hammond says. Of course, Mrs. Pine says. He's here in spirit. Isn't there also a fur baby I need to meet? Weathers says. Yeah, where's Butters? Says Hammond. He's around here somewhere, probably still upstairs, doesn't move like he used to, Mr. Pine says. Poor old guy, Weathers says. Butters is gonna love you. We should find him, Hammond says. Before that, do you need help with your things? Mr. Pine says. Shoot. I think I left the trunk wide open, Hammond says. Oh! Mr. Pine jogs away in exaggerated fashion. I'm on it. I haven't brought in the pie stuff yet, so there's ice cream in there too, Hammond says. I'll put everything away, Mrs. Pine says. You two go make yourselves at home. We'll get the presents under the tree, Hammond says. Hammond and Weathers carry the gift bags to the living room. The tree is decorated with lights, tinsel, and papier-mâché ornaments painted to resemble doll heads. Whoa, Weathers says. What? Hammond says. Your tree's covered in heads, Weathers says. Don't be morbid, it's one of the Pine family traditions, Hammond says. I know you guys like your traditions, but damn, pies? Cool. This is just creepy, Weathers says. They're cute, they're handmade, it's part of the program. Each one represents a kid my parents have sponsored for school. Or wait, maybe it was for food or something like that? I think it's in Swaziland, says Hammond. Man, that's an awful lot of kids, and that's in Africa, right? That's an awful lot of white kids, says Weathers. Wow, racist, Hammond says. Hammond picks up a plush snowman and throws it at Weathers, jostling the camera. The two laugh. Weathers throws the toy back at Hammond. It misses her and knocks an ornament off the tree, crushing it. Shit. Sorry. Wow. Those things are fragile, Weathers says. It's fine, Hammond says. I'm sure my parents won't notice one missing. As Weathers picks up the broken ornament, small clumps of hair clippings are dislodged from inside. Lore? Weathers says. Oh, huh, Hammond says. I'll just get a broom. End of video 1. Video 2. Video 2 opens with a view inside a wastebasket. It contains the broken ornament of an assortment of unopened food items, including a tub of ice cream and a whole wrapped turkey. Hey, Lore, Weathers says. Come have a look at this. I think your parents... A scream is heard. The camera snaps up toward the kitchen. Hammond stands sobbing in front of the sink, her hands over her mouth. What's wrong? Weathers says. Hammond's sobbing intensifies. Lori, what's wrong? Are you okay? Weather says. Lori, what's wrong? Are you okay? Weather says. A faint animal cry can be heard. Weathers approaches the sink. The tip of a bloody paw protrudes from the drain. Shit, what the fuck? Weather says. I don't know. He was already in there, Hammond says. It's okay, just calm down. We'll get him out. We'll find a way where... He's interrupted by the cries getting louder and more strained. Hammond shakes her head. I'm sorry! I'm so sorry, Hammond says. Hammond flips a switch. The paw retreats down the drain as the garbage disposal activates. The animal's cries cease. End of video 2. Video 3. Video 3 is a static view of a ceiling in the home. The blades of the ceiling fan are visible at the edge of the frame, as well as a dark smear, similar to the one seen in the first video. Hammond can be heard crying. It's okay, Mr. Pine says. No, it doesn't make sense, Hammond says. Everything happens for a reason, Lorio, even if we don't understand it, even terrible things, Mr. Pine says. Now, this was a number of years ago, but do you remember the Christmas when you all got those socks, Mrs. Pine says? You were all disappointed, but I remember you were really brave too, kept smiling, acting really grateful, such a good kid. And then Bobby stepped out in his Santa suit with that new game console you wanted. You just laughed and screamed, laughed so much and hugged us so tight, right? Do you remember that? No, that didn't happen, Hammond says. It did, sweetheart, Mrs. Pine says. That didn't happen, Hammond says. It did happen, didn't it, David? Do you remember, David? Do you remember how happy it made you? What? Hammond says. It's okay, Mr. Pine says. Papa's got you. Yeah, now that you mention it, I remember, Weather says. And how did that turn out, Mrs. Pine says. Actually, it was the best Christmas ever, Weather says. What? Hammond says. Mom, why would you even know about something like that? Hammond says. You're not his... But dear, Mrs. Pine says. It's exactly like you've been saying. He's a part of the family now. Davy, honey, are you ready for one more Pine family tradition? Glass breaks somewhere nearby. Hammond begins to scream, but her voice is quickly muffled. Don't worry, baby girl. Papa's got you, Mr. Pine says. It's all right, Lorio. It's all going to be fine. Don't you want to see your brother? Would that make you feel better? That's right, Mrs. Pine says. I almost forgot. Sammy's here. Let's go see him. He's in your old room. You won't even recognize it now. Don't worry, I've kept all your things. I've always kept them. Come on, stand up now, sweetheart. It's time to go. The sound of footsteps and erratic pounding on the hardwood floor can be heard. Voices grow fainter as they move away. It's okay. Quiet now. Help me with her, son. Are you sure it's all right? Weather says. Okay, I'll be real careful, Lore. Sammy's gonna be so happy, Mrs. Pine says. He's missed you like you wouldn't believe. We loved him as much as you, Lori, as much as you. But you weren't here last year, and now you are. We're almost there, baby girl, Mr. Pine says. Up the stairs, Mr. Pine says. That's it, nearly there, almost Christmas. It's gonna be the best Christmas ever, Lore, Weather says. Davy, would you grab your camera? Mrs. Pine says. Sammy will want to see this. End of video 3. Video 4. Video 4 takes place inside SCP-5703. Hammond lays on the floor, awake but dazed. Mr. and Mrs. Pine kneel beside her. The camera, presumably held by Weathers, trembles intermittently. A box of unpainted papier-mâché heads is visible by the door. Please, Mom, I can't do this, Hammond says. Sure you can, Mrs. Pine says. Where's my brave girl? It can't be over, Hammond says. I'm not ready. What about the pie? Dave didn't even get to taste the pie. Everything ends eventually, sweetheart, Mr. Pine says. Even Christmas, even people, pie. He strokes her hair. Mrs. Pine begins to gently remove Hammond's socks and shoes while singing off-key. Away in the manger the baby awakes, close by me forever, no crying he makes. As Mrs. Pine sings, she takes Hammond's right foot in her hands and fits the tip of the first toenail into a small gap between the floorboards. Hammond faintly attempts to pull her toe free, but it remains in place. Mr. Pine joins his wife in song, singing in an exaggerated baritone. baritone. I love thee, dear children, look down from the sky. Oh, stay by my cradle till morning is nigh. Hammond's toe is inexplicably pulled into the space between the boards. The force increases until the soft and hard tissues of the toe are ruptured and compressed. Blood and fragments are siphoned into the gap of the floor. Hammond reaches weakly toward Mr. Pine, who continues to stroke her hair. Mr. and Mrs. Pine continue to sing together. The cattle are low, I ask thee to stay. I love thee forever, and love me I pray. The process accelerates. The remainder of Hammond's foot is rapidly crushed and drawn into the floor, causing severe fractures and swelling in her lower leg. She groans loudly and rattles her nails against the floorboard. A stray scrap of flesh lands next to Mrs. Pine, who nudges it over to the opening using a candy cane. Mr. and Mrs. Pine continue to sing. Bless all the dear children in our tender care, and take us to heaven to live with thee there. A grandfather clock chimes 12 times in the distance. Mrs. Pine begins the process again with Hammond's left foot. Mr. Pine lays a kiss on Hammond's forehead as she convulses. Merry Christmas, sweetheart, Mr. Pine says. I'll get those big scissors from the wrapping station. We'll need to help this along, I think. Gotta make sure there's room left for Davy. After all, you're part of the family now. End of video 4. Afterward, during a subsequent wellness check, law enforcement discovered Weathers' mobile phone in SCP-5703 amidst a morass of human hair and unidentified pulp. While Hammond and Weathers are known to have been romantically involved for at least 16 months prior to their disappearance, there is no available evidence which indicates that either party had any relationship or otherwise with Diane and Robert Pine prior to extranormal event 5703-01. Item 7525, Level 4, Containment Class, Euclid, Disruption Class, Flam, Risk Class, Caution. Special containment procedures for the SCP-7525 info immunization shall be administered at least once a year to each member of worldwide community celebrating Christmas. The info immunization has been integrated into the relevant memeplexes and is now self-administering, and no further inoculation efforts are required at this time. The song remains part of the Foundation immunization program out of an abundance of caution. The song being Wham! 1984 Last Christmas. Song, Sony Music Entertainment UK Limited. SCP-7525-1 instances tend to be self-neutralizing by assimilation, but should otherwise be detained and cured through memtic reintroduction therapy. SCP-7525-1 instances are found based on their search history, online activity, therapy records, public disavowals, and in the course of any other Foundation oversight and surveillance. Description: SCP-7525 is the phenomenon where people that don't hear the original recording of Last Christmas by Wham! Within a whole year will lose all awareness of Christmas as a concept. Such people are designated SCP-7525-1 instances. SCP-7525- instances are completely identical to their original human, except they have never heard of Christmas and tend to be confused and frightened when the holiday is celebrated in their communities, as it always has been. 0.93% of SCP-7525-1 instances fail to manifest, and the original human instead vanishes. Discovery: SCP-7525 came to the Foundation's attention in 2001 following an increase in abnormal behavior related to the popular Whamageddon game, in which the goal is to not listen to Last Christmas. Erratic violent family encounters were flagged and categorized as a minor Christmas-related anomaly. The browsing histories of the affected people were ultimately cross-referenced, and they had all been aware of the Whamageddon info hazard. Interviews with SCP-7525-1 instances indicated that they were aware of every confirmable aspect of their lives except anything related to Christmas. The phenomenon was tentatively designated SCP-7525 pending testing. Addendum 2007, December 1st. Testing has been discontinued and containment is now unnecessary due to the info immunization's ubiquitous development and expungement of the info hazard. The anomaly has been reclassified as Euclid and the relevant teams have been reassigned. Merry Christmas, Dr. Tashi Memtix. Notice from the Office of Scientific Integrity. The following restricted investigation into allegations of scientific misconduct relating to SCP-7525 has been sealed with clearance level 5, 7525, following the completion of the inquiry and implementation of conscious normality. The original documentation above has been reinstated and reclassified. Containment Breach 2016, November 8th. A junior researcher was detained at Site-239 due to unconventional behavior on November 8, 2016, and was determined to be an SCP-7525-1 instance after researching the Foundation's database. Their browsing history includes Whamageddon websites. I've been unable to contact the original research team. The containment procedures appear to be unsatisfied and defunct. Furthermore, the SCP-7525 file has been locked and reclassified to Level 1 to Level 3 confidential for no apparent reason. The supporting research documentation normally expected of an anomaly like this appears to be non-existent. The matter has been escalated pending further investigation. Dr. Brant Ferret, Director of Cryptozoology Department. Preliminary Report, November 12, 2016. The Memetics Department's rationale for de-staffing SCP-7525 is inconsistent and is under review. The research engine integration appears to have been broken in 2008 when the technology was upgraded to Memtic checksums, breaking because the info hazard checksum had a typo due to a data entry error. The Foundation thus missed the subsequent reappearance of the Whamageddon game. Dr. Tashi, the previous SCP-7525 lead, had recommended the removal of Last Christmas from the Foundation Info Immunization Program in 2009, instead recommending its administration at the mandatory holiday events. However, the 2012 Foundation Strategic Secularization canceled religious celebrations, and Dr. Tashi, now director of Site-3-1, failed to recommend the reintroduction of Last Christmas into the Info Immunization Program. Dr. Tashi's whereabouts are currently unknown, and his actions are under Ethics Committee review. Recontainment of SCP-7525 is pending following a decade of uncontrolled spread. Preliminary Report, November 13, 2016. The research engine integration was introduced, and Whamageddon is being expunged pending re-indexing. The mobile assistant integration is being trained to surveil for Whamageddon-related keywords. The re-info immunization of the Foundation personnel has been contested on licensing and freedom from religion grounds. Appeals are pending. Field Report, November 13, 2016. The remote system administration of Whamageddon's website was traced to a maximum security prison of Main previously used as D-class recruitment. MTF Sigma-11 Industrial Hostilities encountered armed resistance from the tentatively designated GO-I-7525. The prison's blocks have been sorted based on years of incarceration served at the facility. The first year's block implemented group confidence with an unacceptably high standard of living per federal regulations. The second year block contained self-published books purporting to explain why the celebrations of Christmas, Halloween, and Cinco de Mayo are unnatural. The writings are pending analysis by the Memetics Department. The literature in the third year block could not be parsed with .asic assistance, and the prisoners were required eye correction. The staff and prisoners were administered Memetics reintroduction therapy following the interrogations and were subsequently repurposed. Foundation equipment and expired credentials were found at the compound, apparently sourced through a Foundation front company or reported stolen from Site-77. The serial numbers indicated allocate to the defunct MTF Chi-25, previously registered as Memplex Integrity in 2005. Preliminary Report, November 14, 2016. The Foundation employee browsing histories have been searched, and 809 employees have visited Whamageddon-related websites. Containment is pending Ethics Committee approval. However, several Ethics Committee members have recused themselves due to a conflict of interest. The matter has been escalated to the Overseer Council. Testing log. Start date, 2001, December 31st. End date. Supervisor, Dr. Elroy Tashi. Hypothesis: SCP-7525 would occur if Last Christmas was not heard during Christmas. Experiment: the test subjects listened to Last Christmas once and were accommodated to Site-31 with a restricted cultural diet omitting Last Christmas. Results: negative. Experiment completed correctly and the test subjects retained awareness of Christmas. Testing log 2. Start date: January 1st, 2002. End date: December 31st, 2002. Supervisor: Dr. Elroy Tashi. Hypothesis: SCP-7525 would occur if Last Christmas was not heard during a calendar year. Experiment: the test subjects listened to Last Christmas once and were accommodated at Site-31 with a restricted cultural diet omitting Last Christmas. Results: positive. Experiment completed correctly and the test subjects lost awareness of Christmas. Comments: SCP-7525 was classified as Keter and Global Info Immunization established. The Whamageddon game was classified as an info hazard and expunged. Testing log 3. Start date: February 1st, 2002. End date: January 31st, 2003. Supervisor: Elroy Tashi. 10 subjects. SCP-7525 would occur if Last Christmas was not heard during a year but not aligned with a calendar year. Experiment: the test subjects listened to Last Christmas once and were accommodated at Site-31 with a restricted cultural diet omitting Last Christmas. Results: positive. No awareness was lost at the end of the 2002 calendar year. 9 of 10 test subjects became SCP-7525-1 instances exactly 1 year last hearing the song on 2003, January 31st. The test subjects have been asked to talk about Christmas at that moment, and 9 out of the 10 lost their train of thought. An individual designated D-05224 appears to have been the 10th subject. However, all relevant data is lost. Comments: further testing approved. Investigation into Whamageddon-related disappearances revealed additional unexplained disappearances. Testing log 4. Start date: 2003, July 1st. End date: 2008, June 30th. Supervisor: Dr. Elroy Tashi. Subjects: 100D class. Hypothesis: similar effects may occur if other info immunizations are not provided over a long period of time, 5 years. Experiment: the test subjects were brought up to date with 2003 popular culture and then mentally isolated in the Site-77 vault with no cultural media. 10 test subjects are released every year for preliminary testing. Positive. 2004 results: Year 1. Positive. Test subjects lost knowledge of Christmas, pumpkin lattes, and Friends, 1994 US sitcom. 2005 results: Year 2. Positive. Test subjects additionally lost knowledge of Spider Nest by Anastasia Belt's 2002 US song. Discrepancies noted with plot points in The Empire Strikes Back, 1980 US movie, and general confusion regarding world affairs. Subjects accepted Memtic reintroduction therapy. 2006, Year 3. Positive. Test subjects unruly and required restraining thousands of major cultural discrepancies. Examples: test subjects all adamant Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is not about Harry Potter but rather Casey Platt. Test subjects all remember the existence of a non-existent US state, North Alaska, whose description they largely agree on. Subjects express non-consensus beliefs about the stars. Test subjects determined to lack 23% of well-known cultural fault lines in the consensus human memplex. Concerns raised about projection decline in cognition. Subjects administered Memtic reintroduction therapy. 2007 results: Year 4. Inconclusive. Test subjects were disfigured and screamed upon encountering research personnel. Considerable initial difficulties communicating with their malformed English. Linguistic analysis indicates their version of English appears to be 3 times more complicated in grammar and vocabulary. The test subjects all found humanity unrecognizable and mostly incomprehensible. The test subjects were shocked and horrified by racism, poverty, global warming, scarves, the war on terror, carnivorism, dancing, spelling competitions, alcohol, pets, the 1969 moon landing, and countless other significant and insignificant details. The test subjects recalled hundreds of thousands of events and concepts they considered missing from the world, the details of which have proven difficult to translate to comprehensible concepts. Alignment with consensus. Humanity failed Although the cosmic corrections and reductant heart removals were successful, each subject expired upon memtic reintroduction therapy. Comments. Experiment cancelled by the Ethics Committee. The remaining 60 test subjects have been sealed indefinitely. Item number SCP-7225. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-7225 is to be kept in the personal locker of junior researcher Timothy Cratchit at Site-51. SCP-7225 is stored in a gravitational stable anomalous item containment locker at Site-19. Extreme care must be taken when removing the item from the locker and transporting it for testing, as even minor instances to the snow within the item can instigate localized weather anomalies. Any anomalous weather events tied to the item's uses are to be suppressed in local and national news outlets, with standard cover story 19 Cold Snap disseminated to local population. Description: SCP-7225 is a snow globe of standard size and design, with an inscription on the bottom reading Snow Craft Products, Aurora, Colorado. The company does not exist. It has never existed. The diorama within the snow globe appears to be an accurate recreation of Foundation Site-51, including figures representing various Foundation personnel standing outside of the building. Notably, one of the miniature figurines appears to be wearing a long purple argyle scarf, similar to the one that junior researcher Timothy Cratchit was known to wear. Discovery: SCP-7225 was discovered by personnel on Site-51 when it was used to create a localized weather anomaly on December 22, 2017, an area roughly 6 kilometers north of Phoenix, Arizona, USA. Experienced a snowfall with a total accumulation of approximately 6.25 centimeters, despite the local temperature being 14.6 degrees Celsius. Foundation security personnel discovered junior researcher Timothy Cratchit outside of the site holding SCP-7225 in his hands and shaking it. Junior researcher Timothy Cratchit was apprehended and SCP-7225 was recovered and subsequently contained. Junior researcher Timothy Cratchit was appropriately reprimanded for breaching several Foundation protocols and potentially endangering all of Site-51. It is to be known that all records in regards to junior researcher Timothy Cratchit do not exist. Additionally, Site-51 and all other records does not exist.